How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand to handle to club relationship. I'm Ethan,
I'm Jonathan.
and we're the guys bringing the hands and arms back into golf. And yeah, judging by our TikTok comments, we're needed.
Yep.
So yeah, we've been having a lot of fun. We're helping out a lot of people on our social media. If you don't follow us, all the links are down below. Where people are sending us their swings. We're really educating people and setting out on the mission that we kind of set out on when we created this company. You know, like we want to really let people know, like, hey, the hands and arms are one of the most important things in the golf swing, and this is what the tour players are doing. This is what the tour players understand, even if the tour players like really don't articulate it really well.
Yeah, they may not understand it, but they actually do
it. Right. Yeah, maybe some tour players will listen to this and be like, "Oh, that's like why I'm good."
There you go. Yeah.
But no, it's been really fun. Thanks for all the support. I mean, everybody that's been sending their swings over, looking at our content. I mean, I think on TikTok we're close to 2,000 subscribers right now, which is followers, which is pretty wild. I mean, considering we just really kind of went heavy on it.
Oh yeah.
About less than a month ago. So,
and the content coming is going to be really good.
Yeah, buddy.
And a lot more interesting.
Yeah, we just did something cool today. Jonathan had one of his longtime students. I mean, how long have you been working with Pat? It's been
since 2010.
Dang, that's so crazy. So yeah, we just set up a net here at Jonathan's place. This is where the studio is. And yeah, we just kind of had Jonathan go through a lesson with him. It was cool. I mean, we're hitting a foam ball into a net, but it's like perfect, you know, like it.
What we really realized too is like you hit into a net, but it's more about looking at the positions of your hands, earlier your claws, and the body, the club.
Exactly.
And if you understand like where it needs to go, then you know you're good to go.
And that's the beauty of like what we're doing when we're talking about like the hands and arms, and you can do like a lot of the golf swing sitting in a chair. Totally. You know, like that's why, I mean, we got our prop. We got a different prop today. We don't have our prototype. We've upgraded.
Correct.
So
yes. A little simpler.
And this is going to be a club that we eventually do some cool stuff with VR and AR. And I mean, like I said, we're not going at this like half. I mean, we're really, really doing some substantial stuff. So yeah, we're just going to talk about some big things that we're really kind of got in the pipeline when it comes to the golf swing, and in particular, something that we're really, really passionate about when it comes to understanding how the golf club works is how the golf club levers, lags, and releases. That's like something that people have never really like heard before, and Jonathan's actually going to go through demonstrations of that today, and it's just going to be really cool to really just get a better understanding of like, how does the golf club work, you know?
Right. Well, one of the big things that we've been seeing with our, you know, posts from people with their swings is that we have three things that they're not doing. They are basically having a problem with in the backswing, keeping the club face too close. So if I'm starting off and let's say this golf club face is square, the club face is going back 2 shot, and they may not know that. I don't think these people are really actually understanding how the grip relates to the action of the hands. So we got to like educate them on that first.
100%.
But when it comes down to it, whether they have the weak grip or a strong grip, everyone is so shut in the backswing that it's to a point where, you know, there's too many manipulations you have to do in order to get the club face back to where the heel can actually lead at impact.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
100%.
Right. And then we also realize that no one's pushing down against the handle. So everyone at setup is either too much, like we'll say wrist down, scientific terms, ulnar deviation, to where the arms and the club are almost in like a straight angle. So when they go back, it like basically restricts the amount of pressure pushed down against the handle.
Right.
Unless you were to bow, like we talked about this in one of our past
episode.
Podcast about you know, the weak grip and bowing the lead wrist and how that works. But if you mix and match your grip too much and you're doing this move where, again, the face is just too shut, it doesn't matter, again, how good you are, you're not going to be able to consistently control that at impact.
I mean, it's hard to control the lie angles, the golf club. And like, it's hard to hit the ground.
And the third thing, though, is sway with the knees. So the knees are moving lateral in the backswing. So if we blend a shut face position with lateral leg action and not pushing down on the handle,
Good luck.
We've got all things like working against each other, you know what I mean, as we're coming back to the ball. So today when we think about lever, lag, release, we're just going to explain how the club levers, it lags, and it releases, and what makes the most sense to be able to control at impact the heel leading the toe properly. And then, once the heel leads properly, which is technically how the heel lags the toe, and then how it releases relative to the toe, that's really what it comes down to. So we'll break that down.
In people have probably heard different terms. Like when we say lever, people have probably heard like the term hinge,
right?
Or like things like that. We use lever because it's just, that's what the golf club is, right? Like the golf club's a lever. So if you push down, it goes up.
When we break it down, we think when people say hinge, your mind goes to, is it what my hands are doing or what the club's doing? See, and that's what you have to try to like diversify, is like the difference that I'm going to have a hand action, which we're going to get into. Like, so if we just dive right into the lever, we have the up and down motions of the club, which are controlled by you pulling with your wrist. So you can push down with your palms and naturally it creates an upward action. If you pull with your index fingers on top of that, it creates a full lever action of the golf club. Okay. So when we think about the second lever, it's more of the back movement, which means that if I was to use like flexion, extension, or not rotate my wrist at all and just work the club around itself like this, like in a perfect perpendicular angle from where it starts, that's the back. And then the around is relative to that where I twist. Okay. So when we break it down to the grip types, we've talked about how with a weak grip, we want to use flexion, right? We want to keep the face more shut.
Like, so that would be like Dustin Johnson,
correct.
Morikawa,
Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
Well, he's a little bit.
Yeah, he's more neutral.
Yeah. So when we think about how we're going to make the weaker grip work, there's going to be less like rotation. And I break the golf swing down into two things. So I break the golf swing down into two things, which is clockwise rotation and counterclockwise rotation of the club. So if we imagine from here, if I clockwise rotate the club face and the handle back, the toe is going to rotate back of the heel.
Right.
If I counterclockwise it from the standard position or the neutral position, it's going to shut, right? So when these guys go back with a weak grip, they basically are almost using some counterclockwise rotation, which is going to also lead us into one other topic down the road, which is that guy that was teaching the people with the
right. Yeah, we're going to talk about him with the juju swing.
With the juju swing, right,
and also like Snappy Gilmore, the dude
exactly.
that does the one
like,
hand.
why are these people taking the face shut back? But then how do they actually get the heel to lead properly at impact?
Yeah,
so
we'll talk about that.
We'll
next.
get back into that.
Yeah,
And then with the neutral grip, we look at the hands, of course, are going to be a little bit more on the trail side of the club. And if we start from the same position, like neutral with the club face, our toe pointing straight up to the sky, when we go back, we're going to use a little bit more clockwise club rotation so that we can get the leading edge of the golf club face more perpendicular to the ground at the takeaway position. Again, if we look back to the weak grip, the face is actually going to be pointing vertical relative to, right? Perpendicular. So if we can then understand when we go to the strong, we're then trying to get the face to be completely perpendicular. Right.
And that's just because it's naturally going to untwist, right?
Correct.
We talked about that a little bit in the last episode.
It's the clockwise rotation of the club that really is the main differential variable in the three different grip types of how you're taking the club back. Are we going counterclockwise rotation, a little bit of clockwise, or all the way clockwise?
Got it. And then that alters now coming into the ball.
So when we think about the lever, right? So like when we think about levering, again, back to what does really levering mean? It means that you're just moving the club head back of the handle in different directions. That's
got it. Okay.
So that's where the hinge, the up, down, the sideways, and the around movements work. So then from there, let's just say if we're sitting in the chair and we're just going to do a basic quarter to quarter swing, and we'll do a strong grip just because that's what we promote the most.
Right.
So as we take the club back to the takeaway, we're going to get, again, the face perpendicular to the ground. And then from there, when you think of lag is trying to keep the toe of the club face lagging the heel. Because when we hit the ground, the heel of the club face has to hit the ground first. If it doesn't and the toe starts to hit first, the divot's going to be behind the ball, and there's no way that you can consistently take a proper divot, which is one of the biggest understandings in golf, right?
Right.
So as we come down, how are we going to lag? We are, because the direction or the relationship that the club face is relative to the handle being up, back, and around. If we push back down against the handle, the club head is going to maintain its position behind. Okay. So if I get to the top, let's say this is our back swing to the quarter, and if I flick the club head at the ball like this, the handle's going to move backwards, and look what we have. We have the toe leading the heel, right? Contact's going to be a problem, direction, everything.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. So if we push, we're going to eventually get to the ground. Now, we're going to get into the body movements at some point, more so of like how it influences how we can support this action.
More feet and knees,
because if I'm
right?
turning or I'm moving too much, it's going to be hard to get the heel to actually pin to the ground. Okay.
Gotcha.
But if we are not moving, we'll say from the top, and we're in decent positioning, and we push back down, the heel will arrive to the ground first. Then from there, the push pressure needs to be consistent so that the heel can lead the toe for approximately 6 inches. That's where it's like a scraping action, and that's what takes the divot.
Right.
So when we think about how are we pushing against the sole of the club, we have leading edge, we have trailing edge. We want to be pushing down against the trailing edge for all grip types.
Got it.
Because if you push down against the trailing edge, it's going to come at the right angle, and then the natural effect of the club going from like lagging to then how it's going to release. And when we think of releasing, we have to remember that it's like the club head passing the handle. Like how is the club face passing? Like the direction and the angle. So we've talked about, again, when we break it down, we've tried to do this real simple. Lever, lag, release. Lever, club head, it's how it works up and back and around of the handle. Lag is how the club head stays behind the handle, and the release is how the club head works past the handle.
Got it.
Okay. So we have this lag, we're pushing down, we get our scrape. Now, what do we do from there? We want to maintain the push down pressure to maintain consistency against the handle and connection with our hands or claws against the handle. And then from there, we have 2 options. We can either just keep pushing in a sense. The handle still has to stop at approximately the lead hip so that the club head can rotate. But with the way that we've understood the gear effect model to the claws, what that means is basically if you get to a pre-impact position like this, and if you're pushing properly, and let's say that the trail wrist stays in extension and goes from bent to staying bent, but the lead wrist goes from extension to ulnar, like this, that's going to naturally create a snap effect.
So the
right?
ulnar, it's almost like it's like hammering a nail.
Correct.
Like your wrist is going from like here
it's like
to here.
You feel like you could say the word punching, but you're pushing, and that creates a punch idea.
So
okay?
when you're hitting the ball, your wrists are bent, but what are your arms doing? Is your right elbow staying straight?
The trail arm goes from bent to straight because if we think back to here, the trail arm should be bent at approximately, we'll say from like a completely locked position. I mean, you might have like 20, 30 degrees of bend, right? But then as you push, if you're pushing in the same direction, it's going to control how much the trail arm and hand unrotate, or we'll say cause the counterclockwise club rotation, right? Because if, let's say that we're in this decent lag position and all of a sudden, instead of just pushing with our palms, we try to go to the fingers, everything's going to snap over so fast, there's no way we're going to
Then you're coming out of tilt.
Correct.
Like you just
and
saw
you're
your
snap
body,
hooking
like,
the ball, or
move
you
out
just
of the-
topped it.
Right, exactly.
So it's all about controlling. When we get to the lag, again, we get the club face perpendicular at pre-impact.
Got it.
We look at post-impact. The club face should be actually back. It's not going to be completely perpendicular with the blade the same way, because we can't come through like this. But by hitting down on the ground, the natural gear effect of the club, because we're swinging a cylinder, is going to rotate to an amount where the face, the club, should be no more than closed back to perpendicular to where it started.
So that face is pretty
so
sharp
right there,
right?
If we look at it though, the blade is actually square. So if we were to stand up and bend forward, this would be a toe up position. So if we look at where the club starts, it's like we set the club back like this and we come through. And if we look at that right there, the club face is actually not closed actually to the target.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Now, if I go like this,
that'd be
or if I took it back like this and come through like this, this is one of the most common things we're seeing. It's like the toe's like, hey, I'm coming in first.
So
like,
this is how you can really educate yourself sitting in a chair. You can really start to understand, like, wow, I can actually work on my golf swing sitting in a chair.
Right.
Because you understand how the hand to handle to club relationship is all that really matters when it comes to understanding why your golf ball's doing what it's doing.
So
okay,
with
cool.
with all the information that I actually have figured out about the claws, I actually started this all off in a chair. But one of the analogies I used to use for my students is like, if you take a car in to get like maintenance done, you have to put it up on the racks so you can do like maintenance underneath and, you know, do the oil change, whatever. The golf swing, same way. When you sit in a chair, you're taking all the body out of it and you're already at a pretty good angle. So then you can just focus in on what the hands and arms are doing.
Got it.
The better you get at the hands and arms, the better the body's going to be doing as well. And it's like, this is where the magic happens.
Exactly. And then from there, all you do is you basically just like bend forward 45 degrees.
Correct.
And you've already like trained basically your positions of your swing when you're sitting in the chair at night.
Right.
And that's why we're going to have that claw ball thing. Cause it's like, man, if we can really train all this stuff and understand, like now we can basically just understand how the hand to handle the club relationship really works. And then from there, just bending forward from the seated position awareness, then you're really kind of good to go.
So real quick, going back, to like the different grips. So we just explained the strong grip and how we have the face again perpendicular here in the takeaway, and then it's perpendicular flat in a sense, same way in the post impact. Now, if we go to a neutral grip where we have a little bit less of that clockwise club rotation and then the release, we'll say that the club face is going to be at approximately 45 degrees open to perpendicular.
So that's like
here's
even
toe up,
with your even
here's
with your
halfway.
spine angle.
Yep, here would be flat. So we're going to be there, and then when we come through to the same position, it's the exact same way. So it all matches. And then if we go to the weak grip and we have the face shut or vertical to the perpendicular position, when it comes through, it's actually the exact same thing here. So the toe actually stays the same amount up or above the heel when you release the club.
Okay,
so like when you look at Dustin Johnson, how he does it, he takes the club back shut, but when he comes down, he actually allows his hands and arms to increase the counterclockwise rotation so that he can get the heel leading. And then because of the way that he has his lead wrist bowed and then turns it down to impact, the face gets, again, perfectly toe up, and then it actually stays that way longer than it would be like as far as with a strong grip, right? When you get the strong grip, there's going to be more face rotation. The point that we also want our viewers and stuff to understand is that we're promoting the strong grip because you're having to use less actual body movement to hold or to get the heel to lead the toe, let's say.
Okay, got it.
So it's like if you're not athletic or you're a little older or you're new to the game or you're just struggling in general, really the strong grip is it because we can utilize all this rotation in the hands and arms relative to the club. And because we're swinging a cylinder, it's the easiest way to create momentum without having to actually like move.
Right. The forward momentum is something that it's made so much easier when you have the strong grip because it's just like you're winding a spring.
Correct.
And then it just like unwinds. And
you're
it's like,
letting the club work for you a little bit better. And the claws really are always the key root to this. You know, if you get the claws right and you properly twist them back with the club and then you come through, you're going to experience what the club's actually going to react as.
Because you're taking their claws.
The pressures that we push down with are the key, though. We got to keep remembering
yes,
that.
Exactly. Right. Because you're basically, you're taking your claws and you're pushing against that cylinder, and then you're winding your claws, which is then winding the cylinder of the club, which is then what gets the club to actually do what we want to do, right? You can't just take with a bad grip and just like, oh, cool, I'm just going to wind it back and unwind it.
Well,
it's
so
like,
to build on that, what he's saying right there, that's perfect because let's just say that we set up, we're going to go to the strong grip, okay? And let's say in the takeaway, we don't push down on the handle. We just kind of, let's say either we pull like this, and you can see my arms are bending, where if I push, my arms stay locked, okay? So let's say I just kind of pull the club up and I'm twisting, I get to the top like this, and then I try to push back down against the handle like we just talked about. This is the reaction we're going to have.
Right.
Because of how we took it back. So it's so important that we lever the club head back appropriately in the backswing so that when we push, it's in its natural state of form in a sense of how it's naturally going to be able to accomplish the follow through. Because again, if you take the club face back in an improper position without pushing against the handle properly, and you try to push back, you're going to get a very interesting, again, reaction.
So, and that's a perfect point because that's when you see like some tour players, they're actually working on presetting their wrists in their takeaway.
So you'll see Justin Thomas and a lot of those guys, and you'll see them, they'll set up to the golf ball, and right before they take it back, you'll see them just go like this. And what it is, and you'll see them look back without turning their head because they're just making sure the face is lined up to their wrist action.
And they're just trying to really
and
just
to feel
like
the pressures they're pushing against. Right. Because it's like, if you went to start your car 50 times in a row, and it's like, and if you had it like in, let's say this, like you were trying to put your key in the ignition and you came in from like a side angle and a weird angle coming in, it's like you're going to be different every time. But if you put it in the same exact way and you start your car, it's going to, let's say, drive the same way. Same
so
with
it's
the golf
almost like
club.
a rail system for your club.
You get the club right here. It's like, now the engine has started. Now how do we drive it? And then from there, if we continue to properly, increase our levers, lag them, and then push properly from pre to post impact, we then can control how the basically we'll say the car rides around the road map of the swing plane.
That's why, like, when we talk about, like, we've talked about this in every podcast, and I always use this analogy with my students, but it always goes back to the handle of the golf club is the steering wheel, and the club face is the car.
Right.
And the swing plane's the road, and you're trying to drive it around the road.
And we're on a 45-degree plane, which is a little weird too.
Exactly.
But
it's not a straight up and down
axis.
road.
Yes, relative to
it's a 3D road. So it's not as easy. It's not like you can just hold it with one hand, like, oh cool, it's just joyriding right down the lane. It's like, nope, it's a 3D road. So you got to make sure that you're really like precise with how you're steering that car.
For sure. You know, it's almost like if you had a roller coaster idea and you imagine the top of the club face right here, let's say that there was like 3 seats and these 3 people are viewing this, and this is like where they get strapped into. And if you take the club face back 2 shut like this, they're like, whoa, I'm getting tilted forward. And then if it comes in like this, it's like we might actually lose them. Or like someone's going to fall on the top right by the toe. Or they come into impact, they're like, oh no, this is not going to be good.
Oh, no.
But if we take it back and appropriately, they're like, oh yeah, we're like having fun, all good. Okay, safe landing. But again, if we're coming into like closed or whatever, again, we might lose somebody off that swing plane. So
that right there is genius. That's going to be like part of our game that we have with our VR.
Doubt.
Oh man, that's too funny. Okay, so now that we understand like how the golf club works a little bit better, I've been getting a lot of like comments about these guys on TikTok, the Juju golfer. You got like Snappy Gilmore, you got this other guy, and they're teaching kind of more of a what you were talking about, more of a counterclockwise rotation. Can you describe that? Because I like it. I think it's cool.
Let's say Slappy Gilmore aside, going to this Juju swing first, like it makes total sense. But what we have to realize is this: they're telling you like they don't really explain the grip in a sense. So it's more about just, if I was to grip this club, just like say I'm just going to hold it like this without any technical grip. Let's just watch the club. I take the club face back shut, and I'm coming through open like this, and that's the main thing that they're teaching.
Okay.
Now, you have to have a proper body rotation if you're swaying and stuff and having like head problems and moving, or you're not in tilt, or you're not keeping your spine angle. Those are all going to be really like big keys that are going to drastically affect how this move works.
Okay.
But if you are properly rotating, you have a good grip and everything, good setup, and you take the face shut back and you go underneath and you come through properly open, like we said, with the weak grip, then it can work. Problem is though, real quick is if you're someone contemplating like doing this, the idea is with the short game. So most of these videos that you see, they have the person taking a full swing. What if I have to take the club back to a quarter to quarter position? Like, how do I hit a chip shot like this? How do I hit a pitch shot like this? How do I hit a flop shot, a bunker shot? We have to understand how this swing relates to every part of your game.
Got it.
And so I can tell you that just from watching like the tour players that do keep the face shut when they go back, they are the worst with their short game. Right? Opposed to also if it's either the face is too shut or you're using your legs too much.
Right. Like Victor Hovland, very shut.
If you get the face properly open in the backswing and you don't use your legs a lot, you're going to be one of the top tour players.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much a given. You could go look online and just analyze
and
all
I
of
love,
them.
like, I watch his content, and I love how he talks about you're basically trying to almost create like a circle with the club, right? So like, because you're trying to get it back out away from you on the foul.
So get back to this idea of like how we're going to make the full swing translatable to the shorter swing. So I'm going to take again the club back all the way. Now, as I come through, my club head is naturally more back of my hands, right? So I have more time to, let's say, clockwise rotate the club, right? To be able to create more lag. But if I'm, again, taking the club back only a short amount of time, there's a big transition in movement in the club, right?
Right.
And again, the idea of why we have to have this transition if the face is shut is because we have to be able to push against the proper angle of the grip that relates to pushing against the heel to lead at impact. So, but again, like the shortest swings in golf, which are the most important, are going to be the most complicated.
Right.
If you have the face really open in the backswing and a decent grip and you push back down on it, you're not going to get a bad result. You're going to be able to utilize the trailing edge of the golf club face, which is going to maximize your spin. It's going to maximize your contact. You're going to take these nice little paper thin divots by pushing down hard.
Right.
But it's all about making sure we get into this angle. So again, understand that if you do want to do this kind of shut face back and then open move coming through, you have to really understand how you need to practice with the short game and everything to make it to where your whole game is going to get better.
I got you.
Because you might be that guy that can hit the driver really well in a long club, but you step up over a chip and you just chunk it every time or top it or shank it.
Right. Because they're basically, I mean, and now you look at like Snappy Gilmore, they're creating like a circle with the club, right? Like kind of like a Jim Furyk kind
it's
of
like
thing.
A loop. It's
right?
a loop. It's like as we call it in Claw Revolution, it's like a sequential loop.
Right.
Because if you get the momentum of the club going in the right direction, it's going to be good. But like we said, in a shorter distance of time, it's harder to get that sequential motion if the face is shut.
But it's good for distance and it's good for things like that.
Sometimes, I mean, it can work. It's more of a thing of, I feel like there's just more of a transitional variable.
Yeah.
And so if we can just get the face more properly, like matching spine angle and like more open to the plane, it's just easier for the average golfer. Like, let's say this. Are you ever going to hit a good shot with the club face really close to impact or open? Like if you think about which one would be better if you had the same swing, open would be better than closed. Because closed, you may not even hit the ball. You might lay the sod over the ball. Open, it's probably going to go right. It might go a little bit thin, but the ball is going to have more distance and everything than it would vice versa.
Right.
So it's more about just getting it square.
And that's why, I mean, you look at when they create that circle, like they're creating that loop where it goes out, but then you see it drop under and then it goes right back out away from you. So
right. And they're doing it again because of how the club's naturally going to rotate because of it being a cylinder.
Right.
So if we take it back shut like this, go under, it's like I can maintain that, and then the face will get back to square.
Got it.
Right.
I got you.
But again, why don't we just go more square and then keep square and then square?
Right.
It's just simpler and less variables.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a little bit too many variables and so when you look at the dude that does the one-handed swings, Snappy Gilmore, walk me through his
So he's
swing.
doing the same thing. He's actually taking the club, he takes the handle in and then really gets the face shut like this. So as he goes to the top, he clockwise rotates the club to get it back perfect. And then from there, he holds that and then just lets the toe release to the target. So when he comes through, he doesn't hold it off to release. He lets the club release, which means he's actually not he's not turning through the ball like vigorously.
He's bracing his lead
he's
side.
actually like holding his body back, letting the club release past. And he's doing this movement to the top with the shut face, again, exaggerated, and then the reroute to create speed.
Got it. Right.
Right.
Yeah, because you got to create the forward momentum.
Right. If the guy ever learned how to do the same movement and control it with his lead hand and put the two together, he'd probably be on tour.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that control.
He's like experimenting. I've been watching a lot of his content and he's experimenting with like both hands and you see like he's got an understanding of like what he's trying to do.
Right.
But it's crazy. I was watching him do this like ninja thing where he like took the club around his head and like behind his back. But then like he went to go hit it. But right before he went to hit it, he like really made sure his trail hand grip was like perfect because he can't do that swing without a perfect trail hand grip.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah, he can't hit a golf ball if he doesn't have really good trail hand claw pressure against the club. He could, when you get that though, and you get that awareness, you can literally do about anything with a golf club and still hit a good golf shot.
Right.
It's more about, where the club has to be like at pre-impact and then where it has to go to post.
Yeah.
And you could do the craziest one, like windmill move, jump around on one leg and do a spin and then hit it and it would be perfect.
Right. Yeah. Because you're just understanding how to create the momentum of like how to get the
how to control
lag and
It's
release.
like a lasso. It's like I'm sitting here doing this and I'm trying to lasso something. You're making this sequential loop and then you cast it to like direct it, but it's like creating that loop though creates the sequential motion.
So it's almost like if you were fishing, but you had a really precise like a window that you had to cast that rod to.
Fly fishing's up and back like this, but let's say we'll add a little twist to it like that, and you're trying to do a little side cast with it, and that would be it. Yeah,
the precision is just insane.
Right, getting ready for that release though.
Yeah,
which is just like
because you
golf,
have
it's
to
like
let it kick.
You get this. You could take your club and go like this 4 or 5 times. And then at the bottom, if you just push down, try to hit the inside part of the ball, you probably hit it really good.
Right. So one thing I want to talk about too is, and now we're talking about like how the club levers, how lags, how releases. I want to talk about lag because lag is something that people really, I don't think understand enough. And it's kind of frowned upon when it comes to people and instructors talking about like, oh, you don't want to try to create lag, but can you describe like why lag is like not really talked about enough? Is it because people don't understand how lag releases?
How about this? It's like people think lag's too complicated of a thing. People try to manufacture lag and create what they think is lag, like just keeping the club more up or something. And that's not about it. It's more about understanding that when you lever the club back, if it's in a decent position, when you go to push back down against the handle, that is how you lag the club. So if your lever is correct, and then from there, if you know how to push against the handle to maintain that lever. So let's say when you think about lag, let's say if I just like lever the club back to like, we'll say the quarter position here. Okay. Now, if I push back down against the handle like this away from my body, what's the club head naturally going to do? It's going to come back just a little bit more, right? That's natural lag. And then if I keep pushing, I'll pin that face to the ground.
Got
right?
it.
But the idea is that like a lot of people that get up to the top and they might think like, just get lax with my hands or relax my arms
the
or
body
something.
creates the
and
lag.
it's like there might be lag, but then the body's moving and it's not controlled by the claws. The claws have to control the lag.
So then you can't release it.
Because the lag is specifically controlled by, again, the way we lever and then the way that we push back against the handle.
Got it. Okay.
Really, lag has like when you think about like how much of an influence your body movements have from the top on lag, it is a certain variable, but you can literally create as much lag as possible without zero conscious body movement and hit the golf ball effectively very far without moving. Right.
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to, is just understand, again, if I take the club back like this, how am I going to lag it? Well, I've got to be able to do this.
Got it.
So it's like, how do we get the club in this position? Then we can apply force from the side of it properly to drive the face.
Got it. Okay. So it's all about driving the face at the proper quadrant of the ball to get the energy to release into the ball properly.
To where then when we go to post impact, the face is not too shut. It's actually back to square to the target.
Love it.
That's what it all comes down to.
Perfect. Cool. This makes a lot of sense. Like I think I hope this is helping a lot of people.
Yeah. It's something that nobody really has described. Like that's the thing, is that I've been teaching golf for a long time. I've read all the books. I've watched all the videos. Like I get it. And I know from my own swing, like when it comes down to really figuring it out, this is what it comes down to.
Right.
Is the golf club has 3 different ways it can work, and how you control it is the key. But when it comes to, again, what is lever? What is lag? What is release? Now we can say, you go and watch a video about how to hinge, how to lag, how to do like certain types of release or whatever. You'll understand better kind of what's going on before even watching that video.
And that's where I think people, when we look at like all these chair things and we're doing it and we see in comments and people are like, I'm kind of confused when you're in a chair, but it's like, you have to develop a relationship with your golf club. And what better way to do that than in this seated position? Because now it's just like this one-on-one thing.
Again, we look at the sternum, like sitting in a chair. It's like we're at about almost a 90-degree angle between our hips to our shoulders. So if I hold the club straight out in front of me like this, it's like relative to my chest. When I stand up and bend forward, it's going to be the exact same relationship. And this movement, this movement here is exactly where all of it comes down to. So the more you can get educated on how to do this when you stand up, it's just going to be easier to visualize. And then you'll be like, oh, wow, actually, I'm not doing that at all. Like I'm doing this and I'm coming like that. It's like, okay.
But it's hard to really like know that you're doing that wrong when you're in like your golf posture, because there's so many variables.
Everything happens so fast and everything too. And your brain pretty much shuts off half the time before you, like right when you go to take the club back. So
yeah, people like black out, like they just like rotate their body and they're like, okay, I think I'm done, right?
It's like, right. Or it's like
no,
okay,
no.
I did what I could and then let's see what happens. But yeah, it's just like, just really getting your brain to realize like this is what's actually going on or what needs to at least go on. And if I'm having severe problems, it's going to be pinpointed right here.
Right, exactly.
Because again, you're probably, if you're hitting a bad shot, you're coming in too close with the face. That's 99% of the problems.
Right.
Whether it's the body health, like, being a problem, or if it's the club being the problem with the claws and how they're controlled, but it all comes down to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And understand how the sway and all the things that we talked about with the shut face, how all those things are adding up to why everyone is struggling in golf still.
Correct.
And we're going to fix it.
We're going to fix it. Absolutely. I hope this helped a lot of people. We're launching our Discord. I think what's today? Today's Saturday. We should be launching a Discord tomorrow. So I'm going to put links in the bottom, in the description below for that. Join the Discord if you want. If you like the information you're hearing and you want us to kind of,
and we're going to keep launching more.
Exactly.
You want us to start here.
I mean, you're going to get kind of the roadmap and the template for what we're doing as a company at Claw Revolution.
Right.
Like this logo here, like we're talking about like the golf swing with claws in effect, but at Claw Revolution, we're injecting a lot of life into golf. I mean, we're doing, like we talked about last time, comic
we're just trying
books,
to bring
NFTs.
like the things that really everything that golf has been lacking, we're trying to bring to life, but also like get this game again to not be this like game where it just seems so
complicated.
misunderstood, complicated, expensive. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Again, we can just sit in our chairs and learn.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not trying. I look at like all the content when I look at social media, and I follow a lot of people because I like to have my finger on the pulse. And I just see like some of the things that they're telling their students. Is like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't have to talk about flexion in the knees and like
it's verbiage that's not going to be like actual like conducive to the person getting better.
Exactly.
Again, if everyone knows what the club's supposed to do and how it works, then you can, and then how the body works, of course. But it's like learning it that way is so much easier because some people might even be able to figure out like the golf swing just by just understanding how the golf club works. If I had that when I start off golf and somebody sat me down and said, "Hey, here's 3 different grip types. Here's how the club works." It's like with them, it's like, oh, whoa, like, you know, yeah. It might take me a little time to process all that, but I mean, it was like, that is it.
That's it. And then you can watch golf. You see the tour players doing it. You're like,
you'll
oh,
notice
cool.
what they're doing. It's like, oh, they're doing like a little bit, neutral grip, a little more shot. Or like whatever it is, you know, it's like strong. You can definitely see it.
You can see it all, and you can compute it, and you can understand it. And we're not using big words. We're not making this game any harder than it needs to be. We're trying to make it easy. We're trying to hold your hand through the process. I'm Ethan.
I'm Jonathan.
And thanks for watching the show.
Yep, thank you.
All the links in the description. Really appreciate all the support. Like I said, Discord, that's going to be where all the kind of good stuff's going down. All the kind of information about our NFT, access to Jonathan and I on a deeper level. That's all coming. So if you like this content, subscribe, follow, and let everybody know we're here and we're ready to help people play better golf.
Next episode coming soon.
Thanks, guys.